Park Hyun sat in his chair and watched the lights dance across the council chamber. He had been Earth's ambassador for 20 years now, and he had seen many strange things. But today felt different. The Velkari were acting weird, even for them. The Velkari looked like walking crystals. They were tall and sharp, with bodies that caught light and threw it around in pretty colors. When they talked, their voices sounded like singing glass. Most people found them beautiful. Park Hyun thought they were just okay. Today, their leader Thekmar stood at the center of the big round room. The council chamber was huge, with seats for all the different alien races. There were the bug-like Chitauri, clicking and buzzing in their corner. The nebular collective floated like living clouds near the ceiling. The forge mines sat silent and metal, their robot bodies perfectly still. And then there were the humans. Just Park Hyun and his helper Kim Ji-woo. 2 people among hundreds of aliens. Kim Ji-woo was young and new to this job. She still got excited about meeting aliens. Right now she was trying very hard not to laugh. Park Hyun could see her biting her lip. The time of peace is over. Thekmar's voice rang through the chamber like a bell. For 3,000 years we have waited. For 3,000 years we have grown strong. The humans think they are safe behind their little planets. They are wrong. The other aliens made worried sounds. The Chitauri clicked faster. The nebular collective swirled in nervous patterns. Even the forge mines turned their metal heads to look at the humans. Park Hyun yawned. Thekmar's crystal body flashed angry red. You dare to show such disrespect? We offer you one last chance to surrender. Give us your worlds, and we will let your species live as our servants. Kim Ji-woo made a small noise. It sounded like she was choking, but Park Hyun knew she was trying not to laugh. He put his hand on her arm to keep her quiet. That's very kind of you, Park Hyun said in his most polite voice. But I think there might be some confusion here. Confusion? Thekmar stepped forward. There is no confusion, human. We have built the greatest war fleet in galaxy history. Our weapons can crack planets. Our ships number in the millions. What confusion could there be? Park Hyun touched the small device behind his ear. It was connected to Earth's main computer system. Computer, please run a current threat assessment on the Velkari Empire. A soft voice spoke in his head. Only he could hear it. Threat level, minimal. Military technology, 2,000 years out of date. Fleet composition, large but inefficient. Recommended response, polite amusement. I see, Park Hyun said out loud. Computer, what would happen if a single human patrol ship met a Velkari war fleet? The patrol ship would win easily. Estimated time, 12 minutes for complete enemy fleet destruction. Recommended action, capture for study instead of destruction. Park Hyun nodded and looked back at Thekmar. I'm sorry, but our computers say your fleet isn't really a threat. Are you sure you want to start a war? The chamber went very quiet. Even the Chitauri stopped clicking. Thekmar's body flashed through several angry colors. Impossible, you lie. Our scientists have worked for 1,000 years to build these weapons. Kim Ji-woo finally spoke up. Sir, should I show them the comparison charts? Park Hyun thought about it. I suppose it might help. Kim Ji-woo stood up and activated her tablet. A big hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed 2 ships side by side. One was a massive Velkari warship, all sharp edges and glowing crystals. The other was a small human ship that looked like it was used for carrying mail. This is your newest battleship, Kim Ji-woo said, pointing to the Velkari ship. It's very pretty, and this is one of our mail delivery ships. Numbers appeared under each ship. The human mail ship had bigger numbers in every category. Weapons, shields, speed, everything. That cannot be right, Thekmar said, but his voice was less sure now. Oh, this is just a mail ship, Kim Ji-woo said cheerfully. We use it to deliver letters between planets. Would you like to see what our actual warships look like? No, Park Hyun said quickly. I think that might scare them too much. He stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. All the aliens watched him. The humans were the smallest beings in the room, but somehow Park Hyun didn't look small at all. Listen, he said in a kind voice. I understand why you're upset. 3,000 years ago, there was a big war. Everyone fought everyone. It was terrible. So we all agreed to stop fighting and signed the armistice. The aliens nodded. They remembered the stories. But here's the thing, Park Hyun continued. During those 3,000 years, we didn't stop preparing. We just got better at it. Much better. He touched his ear device again. Computer, please contact Defense Minister Lee Dong-yun. A new voice came through the chamber's speakers. It sounded relaxed and happy. Hello, Park, how are things up there? Minister Lee, the Velkari just declared war on us. There was a pause. Then Lee Dong-yun started laughing. Really? Finally? I was starting to think they'd never work up the courage. How big is their fleet? They say millions of ships. Millions. That's adorable. Should I send a frigate to deal with them, or would that be overkill? Park Hyun looked at Thekmar, who was now flashing a worried blue color. Maybe we should wait and see what they actually do first. Fair enough. But if they actually attack something, I'm only sending one ship. We don't want to make this too easy. The connection ended. Park Hyun sat back down in his chair. You see, he said to the room, we're not really worried about your war declaration. We've been ready for something like this for a very long time. An old Chitari elder spoke up, her voice full of concern. But surely you don't want war. Think of all the death and destruction. Oh, we don't want to hurt anyone, Park Hyun said. That's why we spent 3,000 years figuring out how to win wars without actually killing people. It's much more interesting that way, Kim Ji-woo nodded. We have a whole department that works on non-lethal warfare. They love their job. Thekmar was now flashing purple, which meant he was confused. But we have been preparing too. Our weapons are the most powerful ever built. I'm sure they are, Park Hyun said gently. For you. But we've been preparing differently. We didn't just build bigger weapons. We built smarter everything. He gestured to Kim Ji-woo, who brought up another hologram. This one showed a chart with all the different alien races and their technology levels over the past 3,000 years. Most of the lines were flat or barely rising. The human line went straight up and disappeared off the top of the chart. While you were building the same kinds of ships and weapons, just bigger, Park Hyun explained. We were inventing completely new ways to do everything. New materials, new computers, new ways of thinking about problems. A forge mind spoke in its mechanical voice. This suggests that human military capability exceeds all projections. Well, yes, Kim Ji-woo said. But we don't really think of it as military capability. We think of it as problem-solving capability. War is just another kind of problem. Park Hyun stood up again. Look, if you really want to have a war, we won't stop you. But I should probably warn you that it won't go the way you think it will. Thekmar's crystal body was now cycling through confused colors. What do you mean? Well, Park Hyun said thoughtfully. The last time someone declared war on us, we ended up adopting their whole species and teaching them better ways to run their civilization. They're much happier now. The chamber was completely silent now. Every alien was staring at the two humans. Kim Ji-woo checked her tablet. Sir, I'm getting reports that several human colonies have already detected the Velkari fleet movements. They're asking if this is some kind of training exercise. Training exercise? Thekmar demanded. Oh yes, Park Hyun said. We run war games all the time. It keeps people sharp. Some of our colonies are actually hoping you'll attack them. They haven't had a good tactical challenge in years. He looked around the chamber at all the worried alien faces. But really, are you sure about this? War is a lot of work, and frankly, we were hoping to spend this year on other projects. Thekmar drew himself up to his full height. The Velkari Empire will not be mocked. We will show you the power of our righteous anger. Park Hyun sighed. Well, if you insist. Just remember that we tried to warn you. He and Kim Ji-woo walked toward the exit. As they reached the door, Park Hyun turned back. Oh, and Thekmar? When this is all over, we should probably have a talk about better ways to solve problems. I think you'll find our methods much more efficient. The door closed behind them, leaving the aliens to worry about what they had just gotten themselves into. Lee Dong-yun was having a good day. The fish were biting, the weather was perfect, and he hadn't thought about work in 6 hours. Then his communicator buzzed. Minister Lee, his assistant's voice came through clearly. Sorry to bother you, sir, but the Velkari just declared war on humanity. Lee set down his fishing rod and grinned. About time. I was starting to think they'd never do it. He was sitting by a lake on Earth enjoying his vacation. As Minister of Defense for all human worlds, he probably should have been more worried. But Lee had been doing this job for 30 years, and he knew something the aliens didn't. Humans had never stopped being ready for war. What should I tell the fleet commanders? His assistant asked. Tell them to keep doing what they're doing, Lee said, picking up his rod again. But maybe put the Sunday Warriors on Tuesday schedule instead. Tuesday schedule, sir? 2 days a week instead of 1. Just to be safe. Lee ended the call and went back to fishing. Somewhere in space, The most powerful alien empire in the galaxy was preparing to attack humanity, and the human defense minister was trying to catch dinner. This was not because Lee didn't care. It was because he knew exactly how ready humanity was for this fight. On Mars, Oh Sungmin was teaching his students about the Great War that happened 3,000 years ago. Oh was a military historian, and he loved his job because human military history was so interesting. The war ended with the armistice, Oh explained to his class. All the races agreed to stop fighting and focus on peaceful development. A student raised her hand. Professor Oh, why did humans agree to the armistice? Were we losing? Oh smiled. That's a great question. Who can tell me what really happened? Another student spoke up. We were winning too easily. It wasn't fair to the other races. Exactly right, Oh said. The armistice wasn't humans surrendering. It was humans giving everyone else a 3,000-year head start to make things more interesting. He brought up a hologram showing the galaxy during the Great War. Human territory was marked in blue, and it was spreading fast across the star map. You see, humans have always been good at war, Oh continued, but we discovered something important during the Great War. We were so much better at it than everyone else that it wasn't fun anymore. The students laughed. They all knew the story, but they liked hearing it again. So we agreed to the armistice, Oh said, and then we spent 3,000 years working on the interesting question, how do you fight a war without it being boring? One student raised her hand. Professor, I heard the Velkari just declared war on us again. Is that true? Oh checked his tablet. Yes, it looks like they did. What do you think will happen? They'll lose very quickly, the student said. But we'll probably learn something interesting from watching how they fight. Very good, Oh said. And what should our response be? The whole class answered together. Minimum force, maximum education value. Oh nodded proudly. Perfect. Now who wants to watch the battles when they start? I think this will be very educational. Meanwhile, on Titan, Jang Minho was working in the shipyards. Officially, he was a civilian engineer who built mining equipment and transport ships. Unofficially, he was one of the people who made sure humanity stayed ready for anything. Hey Minho, his friend called out. Did you hear? The Velkari want to fight us. Minho looked up from the ship he was building. It looked like a simple cargo hauler, the kind used to move supplies between planets. But Minho knew better. Really? He said. That's great. I was wondering when someone would finally test our new designs. He patted the side of the ship he was working on. This beauty looks like a cargo ship, but she's actually a mobile fortress. She can build and launch 100 fighters while moving at top speed. His friend grinned. How many ships like this do we have? Oh, about 50,000, Minho said casually. Plus all the mining platforms. The mining platforms fight too? Fight? Minho laughed. Those things don't fight. They make ships that fight. Each platform can build a complete battle fleet in about 6 hours. Minho's friend shook his head in amazement. So while the aliens were resting during the armistice, we were building an entire secret war machine. Secret? Minho looked confused. It's not secret. We just call it different names. This ship is officially listed as Cargo Hauler Model 7. The weapons are listed as Emergency Asteroid Deflection Systems. And the aliens never figured it out? Well, Minho said thoughtfully, I don't think they ever asked. They just assumed that if we called something a cargo ship, it was only a cargo ship. On Earth's moon, Yoon Hanul was giving a press conference. As director of the Terran Defense Collective, she was supposed to reassure people that humanity was safe. But Yoon had a different approach. Citizens of human space, she said to the cameras, you may have heard that the Velkari Empire has declared war on us. I want to assure you that this is not a crisis. She paused and smiled. It's an opportunity. The reporters in the room looked confused. One raised her hand. Director Yoon, are you saying we want a war? Not exactly, Yoon replied. But we've been preparing for something like this for 3,000 years. Think of it as finally getting to use all those skills we've been practicing. Another reporter spoke up. What about civilian safety? Should people be worried? Yoon laughed. Worried? Have you seen what our children learn in school? Last week, a group of 10-year-olds on Europa designed a defensive strategy that could stop a fleet of 10,000 ships. They got extra credit for being creative. She brought up a hologram showing human space. Every planet, every station, every settlement was marked with little symbols. Each of these marks represents a defensive installation, Yoon explained. But here's the interesting part. Most of them were built by civilians as hobby projects. The reporters stared at the map. There were millions of marks. Hobby projects? One reporter asked weakly. Oh yes, Yoon said cheerfully. During the armistice, military engineering became a popular pastime. People would build defense systems for fun, the same way their ancestors might have built model ships or grown gardens. She pointed to a cluster of marks around Earth. Those installations were built by the local astronomy club. They wanted to practice their engineering skills. And they work? Another reporter asked. Better than most alien military systems, Yoon confirmed. The astronomy club accidentally invented 3 new types of shield technology while trying to protect their telescopes from space dust. Meanwhile, on a small research station near Jupiter, Nam Sora was having the time of her life. She was only 17 years old, but she was already one of humanity's best computer experts, and she had just discovered something wonderful. This is amazing, she said to her friend over the video link. The Velkari are using the same communication codes they had 3,000 years ago. Nam was supposed to be doing homework, but instead, she was hacking into Velkari military networks. It was incredibly easy. I can see all their battle plans, she continued excitedly. Look at this, they're going to attack 12 human colonies at the same time. They think it will overwhelm our defenses. Her friend laughed. Have you told anyone important? Not yet, Nam said. I want to see if I can improve their strategy first. Their current plan is really inefficient. She started typing rapidly, making changes to the Velkari battle plans from inside their own computer systems. There, she said after a few minutes. Now their attack will be much better organized. It might even take our defense systems a whole 15 minutes to stop them instead of 5. Why are you helping them? Her friend asked. Nam looked surprised. I'm not helping them win. I'm helping them put up a better fight. It's more educational that way. Back on Earth, Lee Dong-yun finally caught a fish. As he was reeling it in, his communicator buzzed again. Minister Lee, his assistant said, the Velkari fleet is moving toward our territory. Should I alert the military? Lee looked at his fish and sighed. I suppose we should do something. Send a message to all our commanders. What should it say, sir? Lee thought for a moment. Tell them the Velkari are coming, and remind them to use appropriate force levels. We don't want to scare the other aliens too much. What counts as appropriate force, sir? Oh, I don't know. Maybe 1 ship per Velkari fleet? We don't want to overdo it. Lee ended the call and looked at his fish. It was a good size, enough for dinner. As he put it in his basket, he thought about the Velkari. They seemed so eager to fight. It was almost cute. Humans had spent 3,000 years turning war into an art form. They had developed ways to win battles without killing anyone, ways to defeat enemies so completely that those enemies ended up grateful for the experience. The Velkari thought they were starting a war, but really, they were about to get the most expensive education in the galaxy, and they didn't even know it yet. On the space station where it all started, Ambassador Park Hyun was filing his report about the day's events. He wrote, Velkari declared war today. Expected duration, less than 1 week. Expected casualties, 0. Expected educational value, very high. Recommend preparing welcome gifts for new students. He sent the report and leaned back in his chair. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. Shin Woo-jin was having a very productive morning. He had discovered 3 new artifacts from an ancient civilization, cataloged 2 previously unknown types of crystal formations, and was halfway through translating some very interesting old writings. Then the alarm started going off. Warning, the station computer announced in a calm voice. Large fleet approaching. Estimated arrival in 30 minutes. Fleet composition. Velkari military vessels, approximately 2,000 ships. Shin looked up from his work and frowned. He was the director of Kepler Station, a small research outpost that studied old alien civilizations. They were nowhere near any important trade routes or military targets. Why would anyone want to attack them? Computer, he said, are you sure they're coming here? Confirmed. Fleet is on direct approach vector. Ships are charging weapons. Shin sighed and saved his work. He supposed he would have to deal with this interruption. He touched his communicator. Kang Yeji, are you there? Yes, Director, came the cheerful reply. Kang Yeji was the station's AI coordinator, which meant she talked to all the computer systems and made sure they worked properly. We apparently have some visitors coming, Shin said. Could you handle it? I'm in the middle of something important. Of course, Director. What kind of visitors? Velkari military fleet. About 2,000 ships. They seem upset about something. There was a pause. Oh, this must be about that war declaration everyone's talking about. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Shin went back to his translations. Ancient alien poetry was much more interesting than modern alien politics. 28 minutes later, the Velkari fleet arrived. They came out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their crystal ships gleaming in the light of Kepler Station's sun. It was actually quite beautiful. War Commander Veltar was leading the attack personally. This was going to be the Velkari Empire's first great victory. A small human research station would be easy to destroy, and it would show the galaxy that the Velkari were serious about this war. All ships, target the station, Veltar commanded. Prepare to fire. 2,000 Velkari warships aimed their weapons at the tiny human outpost. It looked defenseless, just a small cluster of modules and solar panels floating in space. Fire, Veltar ordered. 2,000 ships fired at once. Energy beams and missiles filled space, all aimed at the little station. And then something very strange happened. The weapons just stopped. The energy beams hit some kind of invisible barrier and scattered harmlessly. The missiles slowed down, turned around, and gently flew back to the ships that fired them. What? Veltar stared at his displays in confusion. All ships fire again. They fired again. The same thing happened. Their weapons couldn't even touch the human station. Inside Kepler Station, Kang Yeji was recording everything. She had set up cameras to capture the battle from every angle, and she was providing commentary like she was watching a nature documentary. Here we see the Velkari fleet in their natural aggressive state, she said into her recorder. Notice how they fire all their weapons at once. This is typical behavior for species that haven't learned proper tactical thinking. The station's defensive systems were working perfectly. They were designed to protect the research station from space debris and small asteroids. The designers had never expected them to be used against a military fleet, but it turned out that Velkari weapons weren't much more dangerous than space rocks. The Velkari are now trying a concentrated attack on our North Shield Array, Kang Yeji continued. This shows a basic understanding of focusing fire, but they haven't realized that our shields get stronger when attacked. It's really quite adorable. Veltar was getting desperate. All ships ramming speed. We'll break through their defenses by crashing into them. The Velkari fleet charged at the station. This was a brave but stupid move, and Kang Yeji said so in her recording. Oh dear, she said sadly. Now they're trying to ram us. This is a sign of severe tactical confusion. We should probably help them before they hurt themselves. The station's defensive systems gently caught each Velkari ship in a gravity field and held them in place. 2,000 warships found themselves floating helplessly around the research station like insects caught in a spider's web. Director Shin, Kang Yeji called out, I've captured the attacking fleet. What should I do with them? Shin looked up from his work again. Captured? All of them? Yes, sir. They tried to ram us, so I had to stop them before they damaged their own ships. Shin thought about this. Well, I suppose we should interview them. This could be valuable cultural research. He got up and walked to the station's communication center. There he opened a channel to the Velkari flagship. Hello, he said politely. This is Director Shin Woo-jin of Kepler Research Station. I understand you came here to attack us? Veltar's image appeared on the screen. He looked very confused and somewhat embarrassed. Yes, we came to destroy your station and kill all humans on board. I see, Shin said thoughtfully. May I ask why? Because we are at war with your species. Ah, right. The war declaration. I read about that in this morning's news. Shin paused. But why attack a research station? We're just archaeologists and historians here. Veltar's confusion grew. You are a human military outpost, are you not? Military? Shin looked surprised. Oh no, we're civilians. We study old civilizations. Would you like to see our library? Before Veltar could answer, Shin activated a hologram showing the station's main research lab. Dozens of human scientists were working quietly at tables covered with ancient artifacts and old books. We have the largest collection of pre-war Velkari historical documents in the galaxy, Shin said proudly, including some very interesting poetry from your classical period. Are you familiar with the resonance cycle? Veltar stared at the hologram. You study our history, of course. Velkari culture was quite advanced before the war years. Your early philosophy was particularly sophisticated. Much more thoughtful than your current military doctrine, I must say. In her recording booth, Kang Yeji was trying not to laugh. The director is now giving the enemy commander a lecture on historical literature. This is probably not what Veltar expected when he planned this attack. Veltar was indeed not prepared for this conversation. But you destroyed our fleet. Destroyed? Shin looked confused. We didn't destroy anything. Yeji, did we destroy something? Kang Yeji's voice came over the intercom. No, Director. All Velkari ships are undamaged. I just stopped them from flying around so dangerously. There you go, Shin said to Veltar. Your ships are fine. Though I have to say, your tactical approach needs work. Charging directly at a defended position went out of style about 2,000 years ago. Veltar was now completely lost. But your defenses? They stopped our most powerful weapons like they were nothing. Well, yes, Shin said. We can't have space debris damaging our research materials. So our shields are designed to stop anything that might be harmful. Anything? Pretty much. Asteroids, cosmic radiation, weapons fire, whatever. The computer doesn't really distinguish between different types of threats. Shin looked thoughtful. Actually, this is quite interesting from a research perspective. Would you mind if we studied your attack patterns? We're always looking for new examples of tactical evolution. You want to study us? If you don't mind. We could compare your current military thinking to historical Velkari strategies. It might help you improve your effectiveness. At this point, Lim Da-hyun arrived. She was Kepler Station's cultural liaison, which meant she helped visiting aliens understand human customs. She was very excited to meet actual Velkari. Director Shin, she called out happily. I heard we have Velkari visitors. This is wonderful. She appeared on the communication screen next to Shin. Hello there, I'm Lim Da-hyun. I've always wanted to meet a real Velkari warrior. Your military traditions are so fascinating. Veltar looked from Shin to Lim. Fascinating? Oh yes, Lim said enthusiastically. The way you use crystal harmonics in your battle commands, the geometric patterns of your fleet formations, it's like military art. Though I notice you're still using the old aggressive patterns instead of the newer efficiency models. Newer efficiency models? Lim nodded eagerly. We developed them based on your historical texts. Much better resource management, lower casualty rates, higher success probability. Would you like to see? Before Veltar could answer, Lim activated another hologram. It showed the Velkari fleet arrangement, but with the ships moved into different positions. See, if you had approached in this pattern instead, she explained, you could have tested our defenses without risking damage to your ships. And if you had varied your weapon frequencies like this, you might have found a weak spot in our shields. Veltar stared at the display. The new arrangement was clearly superior to what they had used. You're giving us tactical advice? He asked weakly. Well, yes, Lim said. Your current approach is based on intimidation rather than effectiveness. It probably worked 3,000 years ago, but modern defensive systems are much more sophisticated. Shin nodded. It's like you stopped learning new tactics after the armistice. Understandable, I suppose, but not very practical if you want to start fighting again. Kang Yeji's voice came over the intercom again. Director, we're getting a transmission from Earth Defense Command. They want to know if we need... The news about Kepler Station spread across the galaxy very quickly. A tiny human research outpost had captured an entire Velkari war fleet without firing a single shot. The other alien races were starting to worry. Thekmar was furious. He called an emergency meeting of the Grand Alliance, bringing together 12 different species who all agreed that humans were becoming too dangerous. This cannot continue. Thekmar's crystal body flashed angry red as he spoke to the assembled leaders. The humans mock our power. They treat war like a game. The Chitari Queen clicked her mandibles nervously. Perhaps we underestimated them. Maybe we should reconsider this war. No. Thekmar's voice rang like a broken bell. We will show them the true meaning of overwhelming force. All of our fleets together, attacking their largest colony. They cannot stop us all. The other leaders looked uncertain, but they had already committed to this alliance. 12 species, thousands of ships, all targeting one human world. They chose New Busan, humanity's largest civilian colony. It was home to 50 million humans and had no obvious military defenses. Surely, the aliens thought, this would be different from attacking a small research station. They were wrong about that too. Song Ji-hoon was the city manager of New Busan. It was a busy job because the colony was huge, with cities covering 3 continents and space stations orbiting overhead. But Song had been doing this work for 15 years, and he was very good at it. "Manager Song," his assistant called from across the office. "We're getting reports of a large alien fleet approaching the system." Song looked up from his budget reports. New Busan was planning to build a new art museum, and the cost estimates were giving him a headache. "How large?" he asked. "About 12,000 ships, sir. 12 different species." Song nodded and went back to his budget. Probably the Grand Alliance everyone's been talking about. "Make sure the automated defenses are active, and send a message to the citizens asking them to stay inside today." "Should I contact Earth Defense Command?" his assistant asked. "Why?" Song looked puzzled. "It's just a fleet attack. The automated systems can handle it," he thought for a moment. "But do send a message to Professor Kwon Jinsu at the university. He's been working on those new defense protocols, and this might be a good test." Song's assistant looked worried. "Sir, there are 12,000 enemy ships coming to attack us." "Yes, I heard you the first time," Song said patiently. "But remember, this is New Busan. We have the most advanced civilian defense grid in human space. Those ships are probably in more danger than we are." On the other side of the city, Park Soo-young was setting up her easel by the window of her apartment. Park was an artist, and she had heard about the approaching fleet on the morning news. She thought it might make an interesting painting. "This should be fun to watch," she said to herself as she prepared her cameras. Park was known for her battle art. Paintings and videos of space conflicts that captured both the beauty and the chaos of modern warfare. She started a live stream on the colony's entertainment network. "Good morning, everyone. This is Park Soo-young with another episode of Art and War. Today we have a special treat. A 12-species alliance fleet is coming to attack New Busan." The viewer count jumped immediately. Battle art was very popular among humans, especially when the battles involved their own colonies. "I can see the fleet on the horizon now," Park continued, adjusting her camera. "Oh my, that's quite a formation. Very traditional, very symmetrical. Not much artistic flair, but the sheer size is impressive." Meanwhile, at New Busan University, Professor Kwon Jinsu was very excited. He had been working on new defensive strategies for 3 years, and this was the first chance to test them against a real enemy. "Students," he announced to his advanced tactical studies class, "today we have a wonderful opportunity. A large enemy fleet is about to attack our colony, and we get to watch our new defense protocols in action." The students cheered. Most of them had been hoping for something like this to happen. Theoretical tactical studies were interesting, but watching real battles was much more educational. "Now remember," Professor Kwon continued, "our goal is not just to stop the enemy. We want to learn something from the experience. So pay attention to how each species approaches the attack, and take notes on their tactical differences." He activated a large hologram showing the approaching fleet. As you can see, they're using a standard overwhelming force approach. Lots of ships, simple formation, direct attack. "What does this tell us about their strategic thinking?" A student raised her hand. "They don't understand modern defensive capabilities, Professor." "Excellent. And what should our response teach them?" "That cooperation is better than force," the class answered together. "Very good. Now let's watch and learn." High above New Busan, the colony's defense grid was waking up. The system was managed by an AI called New Busan Defense Coordinator, or NBDC for short. NBDC had been designed by civilian engineers as a way to protect the colony from asteroids, space debris, and similar hazards. No one had told NBDC that 12,000 warships couldn't be handled the same way as a few chunks of space rock. "Incoming objects detected," NBDC announced calmly. "Classification: large fleet of mixed alien vessels. Threat assessment: moderate space traffic hazard. Initiating standard debris clearance protocols." The Grand Alliance fleet came roaring into the New Busan system at top speed. 12,000 ships from 12 different species, all armed with the most powerful weapons their civilizations could build. They opened fire on the colony from long range, filling space with energy beams and missiles. And then NBDC started doing its job. The defense grid didn't think of this as a military battle. It saw 12,000 objects that were creating dangerous space debris around a civilian colony. So it began cleaning up. First, NBDC politely asked the ships to stop shooting and move to a safe distance. When they ignored this request, NBDC decided they were malfunctioning and needed help. The missiles were caught by gravity fields and gently redirected into empty space. The energy beams were absorbed by shield systems and converted into power for the colony's electrical grid. The attacking ships found their weapons completely useless. Hostile vessels are experiencing technical difficulties, NBDC announced. Initiating assistance protocols. Park Soo-young was having the time of her life. Her live stream now had 2 billion viewers across human space, and the comments were hilarious. "Look at that beautiful formation," she said excitedly as the alien fleet spread out around the colony. 12 different species, each with their own fighting style. The Chitauri are doing their swarming pattern. The forge mines are advancing in rigid geometric lines, and the Velkari are... Oh, the poor Velkari looked confused. She zoomed in on a group of Velkari ships that were hanging back from the main battle. "I think the Velkari learned something from their experience at Kepler Station. They're being much more careful this time." The battle continued for several hours, but it wasn't really a battle. It was more like watching a very patient teacher deal with 12,000 unruly students. NBDC kept trying to help the alien ships. When their weapons overheated from constant firing, NBDC cooled them down. When their shields failed, NBDC provided backup power. When their formations broke up in confusion, NBDC gently guided them back into orderly groups. "This is so educational," Professor Kwan told his students. "Watch how each species reacts differently to having their tactics neutralized." The Chitauri are adapting quickly. The forge mines are recalculating constantly. But the gas giant species are just getting more and more frustrated. One of his students was taking detailed notes. "Professor, why isn't NBDC just destroying them?" "Because NBDC wasn't designed for destruction," Professor Kwan explained. "It was designed for problem solving. Right now it sees the alien fleet as a complex logistical problem that needs to be managed safely." As the day went on, something strange started happening. The alien ships began working together better than they ever had before. NBDC's assistance was accidentally teaching them how to coordinate their attacks more effectively. "Fascinating," Professor Kwan murmured. "Our defense system is actually improving their tactical cooperation. This is completely unplanned but very educational." The turning point came when Cho Yunbi, a 16-year-old student at New Busan High School, was walking to her physics class. She had been watching the battle from the school windows and she was getting bored. "This is taking forever," she complained to her friend. "Don't we have anything that can end this more quickly?" Her friend pointed to the gravity manipulation device they had built for their science project. "What about the gravity wave generator?" Cho looked at their project, a device designed to create small gravitational anomalies for research purposes. "You think it would work on spaceships?" "Only one way to find out." They wheeled their science project outside and pointed it at the alien fleet. Cho made a few adjustments to increase the power output, then pressed the activation button. What happened next surprised everyone, including NBDC. A massive gravitational wave swept through the battle zone, gently but irresistibly pulling all 12,000 alien ships into a neat, organized formation. They found themselves arranged in perfect rows, completely unable to move or fire their weapons. After the Battle of New Busan, the galaxy became very quiet. 12,000 ships from 12 different species were now floating in neat rows around a human colony, their crews trying to understand what had just happened to them. An Ji-ho had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. As humanity's chief xenopsychologist, his job was to understand how alien minds worked. And right now, he had the largest collection of confused alien minds in galactic history. "This is perfect," he said happily as he reviewed the reports from New Busan. "We finally have a chance to conduct large-scale studies on interspecies conflict resolution." He called a meeting with the other human leaders. They gathered in a conference room on Earth, looking out at the blue sky and peaceful cities that had remained completely undisturbed by the war. "Ladies and gentlemen," An said to the group, "I think it's time we explain to the galaxy what this war was really about." Go Hyejin, director of the Terran Ethics Council, nodded thoughtfully. "The aliens still don't understand, do they? They think this was about military superiority." "Exactly," An replied. "They keep thinking in terms of winners and losers, conquerors and conquered. They don't realize we've been playing a completely different game." Defense Minister Lee Dong-yun, who had finally returned from his fishing trip, looked relaxed and satisfied. "So what do we tell them?" "The truth," An said simply. that this was never about war at all. Meanwhile, aboard the human ship Soul's Pride, war speaker Tekmar was having the strangest experience of his very long life. He had been captured after the New Busan battle, along with the other Alliance leaders. But instead of being imprisoned or interrogated, he was attending what the humans called remedial civilization studies. His teacher was Yu Minjae, a cheerful human who seemed to think that Tekmar was simply a student who had fallen behind in his lessons. "Now then," Yu said, pointing to a holographic display, "let's review the basic principles of resource management. Can you tell me why it's more efficient to trade for resources rather than conquering planets to get them?" Tekmar's crystal body flashed confused colors. Because trading doesn't require military fleets?" "Very good," Yu said encouragingly. "And what else?" "Because when you trade, both sides benefit." "Excellent. You're learning quickly. Now let's talk about population management. Why is it better to help other species develop their own worlds rather than forcing them to work on yours?" Tekmar thought hard. This was not the kind of education he had expected to receive as a prisoner of war. Because happy populations are more productive than enslaved ones, he guessed. "Right again. See, you understand these concepts perfectly well. Your civilization just forgot to apply them." You brought up another display showing the economic development of different species over the past 3,000 years. "Look at this chart," he said. "Species that focused on trade and cooperation grew much stronger than those that focused on conquest. The Velkari Empire actually became weaker during the armistice, while their neighbors became more prosperous." Tekmar stared at the numbers. They clearly showed that the Velkari approach to galactic politics had been a complete failure. "But we are warriors," he said weakly. "Conquest is our nature." "Oh, humans are warriors too," you said cheerfully. "We're probably the best warriors in the galaxy. But we learned something important. The best victory is one where everyone is better off afterward." Back on Earth, Prime Minister Han Sunwoo was preparing for the most important speech in human history. He was going to address the entire Galactic Council and explain what humanity had really been doing for the past 3,000 years. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, "speaking to representatives from hundreds of different species, you have all witnessed the recent conflicts between the Velkari Alliance and humanity. Many of you are confused about what happened. Today I want to explain." The council chamber was completely silent. Every alien representative was listening carefully. 3,000 years ago, we all fought a terrible war," Han continued. "When it ended, we signed the armistice. You thought this meant we all agreed to stop fighting and focus on peaceful development?" He paused and smiled. "You were half right." A hologram appeared showing the galaxy during the Great War 3,000 years ago. During that war, humanity learned something disturbing. We were very good at fighting, too good. We were winning so easily that it wasn't fair to anyone else. The hologram changed, showing what would have happened if the war had continued. Human territory would have covered the entire galaxy within a few centuries. We realized that total military victory would be bad for everyone, including us, Han explained. A galaxy with only one species would be boring, so we agreed to the armistice. Another hologram appeared showing human development during the armistice period. But we didn't stop preparing for conflict. Instead, we spent 3,000 years working on a much more interesting problem. How do you win a war without anyone getting hurt? The alien representatives began to murmur among themselves. This was not what they had expected to hear. "You see," Han continued, "we realized that the goal of conflict shouldn't be to destroy your enemies. It should be to help them become better neighbors." He gestured to the recent battle reports. Every engagement in this war was designed to demonstrate superior capabilities while minimizing harm. We wanted to show you that aggression was pointless, not because we would destroy you, but because we could help you achieve your goals more effectively through cooperation. Go Hee-jin stood up to address the council. "This is why we established the Galactic Improvement Initiative. We don't want to rule other species. We want to teach them how to be more successful." "Teach us?" The Chithari Queen sounded offended. "You think we need human teachers?" "Look at the results," Go said gently. She activated a hologram, showing economic and social development statistics. For all the galaxy's major species, every species that has worked closely with humans during the armistice period has seen dramatic improvements in living standards, technological advancement, and social stability. Meanwhile, species that remained isolated have stagnated or declined. The numbers were undeniable. The human approach to galactic politics was simply more effective than anyone else's. Han stepped forward again. We're not asking you to surrender to us. We're offering to help you become more than you ever thought possible. And if we refuse? Asked a representative of the Forge Mines. Han smiled. Then you refuse. We won't force anyone to accept our help, but we also won't let you hurt yourselves or others through poorly planned conflicts. The meaning was clear. Humanity was strong enough to stop any war, but wise enough to prefer education over domination. On a small colony world near the edge of human space, Im Chae-young was packing her bags. She had just received the most unusual job assignment of her career. Im was a kindergarten teacher. She loved working with young children because they were eager to learn and quick to understand new ideas. Now she had been asked to apply those same skills to an entire alien empire. Are you sure about this? Her friend asked as Im packed her teaching materials. The Velkari are ancient warriors, not children. Have you seen their recent military planning? Im replied. Trust me, they need to start with the basics. Her first assignment would be to work with Thekmar and the other Velkari leaders. Her lesson plan included modules on sharing resources, solving problems with words, and why bullying doesn't work. Besides, Im added, children are much more reasonable than most adults. At least kids are willing to admit when they don't understand something. The Galactic Council meeting continued for several days. In the end, most species agreed to join the Galactic Improvement Initiative. A few chose to remain neutral, which humanity accepted with good grace. The Velkari Empire officially surrendered, but it wasn't really a surrender. It was more like enrolling in the galaxy's most advanced school. Thekmar, who had now completed several weeks of remedial civilization studies, was appointed as the first Velkari student ambassador. His job was to learn human methods and then teach them to other Velkari. I still don't understand, he said to Yu Minjae during one of their sessions. Why did you let us attack you? You could have stopped us before we fired a single shot. Yu smiled patiently. Because you needed to learn the lesson for yourselves. If we had just told you that your military was obsolete, would you have believed us? Thekmar's crystal body flashed with something that might have been embarrassment. No, we would not have. Exactly. Sometimes the best way to teach someone is to let them discover the truth through experience. As the months passed, the galaxy began to change. The Velkari Empire started focusing on trade instead of conquest. The Chithari developed new technologies based on human designs. The Forge Mines began experimenting with more flexible social structures, and throughout human space, people went back to their normal lives. The war had been interesting, but it was over now, and there were more important things to do. Park Hyun, still serving as Earth's ambassador, filed his final report on the conflict. War concluded successfully. All objectives achieved. Enemy forces converted to student body. Estimated time for full curriculum completion, 50 to 100 years. Recommend expanding teacher training programs to handle increased enrollment.